Hello class, Dr. Nemechek here with your week 4 presentation. We are now going to be talking about part 4 in your textbook, which moves into report and measuring financial results. And as with the previous chapters that we've had in the first 3 weeks of the course, chapters 11, 12, and 13 are very short, very concise. And one of the things that the author tells you right at the opening of chapter 11 is that it is not our intention to convert you into an accountant. Therefore, our discussion of the major financial reports will center on the concept of each report and not on the precise accounting entries that are necessary to make the statement balance. So as you're thinking about this week's lessons and taking a look at the full PowerPoint presentations that are embedded for you in week 4 for chapters 11, 12, and 13, we're going to be talking about reporting as a tool, financial and operating ratios as performance measures, and last time value of money. So on page 119 in your textbook, the progress notes for reporting as a tool, there are 4 of them, which essentially, again, define for you what a balance sheet is and what kind of information you'll need to interpret on a balance sheet. And essentially, it tells you that a balance sheet records what an organization owns, what it owes, and basically what it is worth. The equation that you'll see in a balance sheet consists of assets equals liabilities plus your net worth or fund balance, and that's what kind of information you're going to find on a balance sheet. So it's not real hard to understand, and they've got some really good examples for you in Exhibit 11-1 on page 121 in your text, where it shows you what the assets are of the organization versus the liabilities and the fund balance. What their long-term debt is and the fund balances, and how it all adds up at the bottom of the page. So again, there is a whole lot of rocket science involved with coming up with these equations. It's fairly standard stuff. So again, don't get wrapped around the axle in numbers and the equations themselves. But more importantly, try to understand the concept of why we use a balance sheet as a reporting tool, and then combine that with the other terms that they bring to your attention. So again, at the end of the chapter, page 125, take a look at the information checklist, which asks you what is needed, what is it, where is it found, and how is it used. Focus on the key terms of what does accrual-based accounting mean, what is a balance sheet, what is cash-basis accounting, etc., etc., then answer the discussion questions, and again, we'll bring all this information full circle for you again. A really good review of Accounting 101 and 102. Chapter 12 on page 127 then moves into financial and operating ratios as performance measures. Now, ratios are convenient and uniform measures that are widely adopted in healthcare financial management. They are important to us because they are so widely used, especially because they're used for credit analysis. But a ratio is only a number, and you need to understand that it has to be considered within the context of an operation. That is that there is a caveat here that you need to take into consideration. That is, when you're doing ratio analysis, you should be conducted as a comparative analysis. In other words, you're comparing one number against another. One ratio standing alone with nothing to compare it to does nothing and means very little. When interpreting ratios, the differences between periods must be considered, and the reasons for such differences should be sought out. And it's always good practice for such differences. It's good practice to compare results with equivalent computations from outside the organization, such as regional figures from similar institutions, which would be a good gauge or example to use. So again, financial ratios are basically pulling together 2 elements of the financial statements, one expressed as a numerator and the other one as a denominator, and they show you in Exhibit 12-1 on page 128, the next page, some of those ratios and how you calculate them. They've got one there for liquidity ratios, solvency ratios, profitability ratios, current ratios, quick ratios, and how to compute days cash on hand. And again, there's no rocket science that's involved with any of these things. These are just simple equations that can tell you where your money stands and how you're going to report them in the balance sheet that we were talking about previously. So spend some time just reviewing those very lightly. Don't try to commit them to memory. And then focus on the information checklist on page 134 of chapter 12, as well as the key terms and the discussion questions. And then last but not least, we close up this week 4 discussion with the time value of money. And again, very short and concise chapter that will try to explain to you that all the money that we deal with has value, but only in a comparative period of time. There are 4 progress notes or learning objectives in this particular chapter that will teach you that the purpose of the computations for the time value of money is to evaluate the use of money. The manager that this is going to be you eventually has many options as to where resources of the organization should be spent. So these calculations are going to provide you with guides to assist in evaluating those alternatives. So they're going to go over some basic calculations to get you to understand how to compute an unadjusted rate of return, how to use a present value table, and they give you several examples of those in this chapter, how to compute an internal rate of return, and how to understand the payback period of money. That is, when you buy back money, how much is it going to cost you to, borrow that money? How much is it going to cost you to borrow that as you go through the payback period? Now, this is a very short chapter. It only consists of 3 short pages, and then it takes you right to the information resources, the information checklist, key terms, and 2 discussion questions. So again, 4 discussion questions. Spend a little bit more time in this chapter trying to understand what it is that they're trying to convey here relative to the time value of money. And when you put all of these 3 topics together, the reporting issue, where you're going to be talking about the balance sheet and what that consists of, the ratios that you're going to use to make a determination as to how to measure the performance of your organization relative to how they're spending money, and then how much money is going to cost you over a course of time, and particularly that money that you have to borrow for operations. One of the things that that may come in handy to you is that Appendix 13A and 13B, 13C are some tables that may prove helpful to you in solving some of the questions that they've asked you as just practice exercises that they've got throughout the textbook, and those can be found at the very back of the text. Appendix 13A is the present value table, Appendix 13B is the compound interest table, and 13C is the present value of annuity of $1. So if you haven't reviewed those, take a look at those and become familiar with them. Take a look at some of the practice examples that they've got at the back of your textbook that will help you understand that clearer. And then once we complete week 4, we move into an entirely new section in week 5, where we're going to be talking about tools to review and manage comparative data. So again, if you have any questions, please contact me via email or give me a telephone call, and we will discuss what the issues are that you have at hand. I did hear from several of you during week 3 and week 2 for a little further explanation about some of the questions that were being asked in the discussion assignments and for the assignment itself. I hopefully was able to put you on the straight and narrow with those. So don't be afraid to contact me if you need some extra help. If not, I will see you with my week 5 video. Have a good week. Bye.